need that I forgot to mention. I was told this in the office yesterday. Many of y'all who've been around here for a while remember Paul White. Paul worked out here on the pier for years. He and his wife Kathy lived here in the park. Kathy worked in the office as well. Many of y'all know who that is. Kathy passed away the past couple of days, so I ask that you remember Paul in prayer. They needed it. It was very much unexpected, so they need to be bathed in the grace of God right now. He needs hope and comfort, so pray for them. I did want to let you know that. It's interesting when you look at the sermon this week. I'm trying to encourage Douglas and try to foster some of those gifts within him. And I want to let him see a little more about what goes into being a chaplain. And so what I did this week, I let him read the text to see what he thought was worthy to speak on. It's kind of cool, isn't it? You know. And as a dad, I really like that. It was really neat. And this past year, he's gone on some home visits with me. He's gone on some hospital visitations with me. Now, I'm not trying to make him be a chaplain. I know y'all had that look on your face. I'm not trying to make him do that. But you never know what kind of gifts someone has, and you never know what God's doing through those opportunities. So he did that, and this morning he's actually going to help me with the baptism with Britt, because we want to make sure we get Britt down and get Britt back up. And you know, Douglas is going to help me with that. And but I gave him the text this morning, for this morning, and I wanted to see where he went with it. So to show you how good this text is, Douglas and I firmly agreed on what we need to preach on this morning. So it's that clear. It's that clear. Some texts, you can hear them, and they don't inspire you to make a decision. They don't inspire you to move. It's almost like you hear a story and you can just hear the story and say, that's a good story, that's a good precept. But there's some text where you are walked to the end of a dead-end street and you have to make a choice whether you go left or whether you go right. And this is one of those. When we look at questions that we have in our life, Heather's going to fuss at me. I got to be still. She's trying to video me, and I'm moving on purpose, so she has to move that camera around. But when we look at the questions that we have in life, our lives are filled with questions. It's all the time. Think about it. The many questions that people ask you. When you go out to eat, they say, how would you like your steak cooked? How would you like it cooked? Medium rare. Okay, that's good. What about you? Same? Whatever she says, same? Y'all been married how long? 48 years. Same. That's right. Would you like baked potato? Baked potato or fries? Baked potato or fries? Baked potato. Same. Butter, sour cream? Both. Butter, sour cream. Same. Boring. Boring people. What you drinking? That's okay. That's personal. I ain't getting it all. But life is full of questions. Full of questions. You go to the Waffle House. Hey, you want your hash browns? You don't need them. She don't need hash browns? You're right in the right spot. If you don't eat hash browns, you need to know Jesus. Right? The answer to that is scattered, covered, smothered, and chunked. Right? Not necessarily. But we all have questions we have to answer. Correct. I'm just kidding. That's okay. Do you want, when you go shopping, paper or plastic? They used to ask you that. Now they don't even have paper much anymore. It's, do you have your own bag or do you want plastic? You know. What other questions do we have? You want coffee? I ask Heather that every morning when she gets up. We got coffee. Do you want some? Life's full of questions. Who do you root for? What's your favorite team? What's your favorite food? Of all the things in the world to eat, what would you eat? It's your last meal on earth. What you gonna eat? Grits.
That's a good man right there.
You're from the South. Grits. Anybody else want anything else other than grits? What about you, Same? Same? No, something different? I thought you'd say some of her cooking or cake or something. Grits. Microwave? Real microwave. Steak. That's good. Questions? We have them. You have conversations. What kind of mayonnaise do you like? We had this conversation over at Katie Riley's house. If you're from the South, you like one kind of mayonnaise. What is that? I heard it was, that this is unscientific, but it was 98% Duke's and 1% Hellmann's. And then for somebody, it's Miracle Whip, right? But if you're in the South, it's Duke's. The text this morning deals with a question. And it's a question that is probably the most important question we will ever have in our life. It's not the question of will you have enough money to retire? It's not that question. It's not the question of am I fit enough? Do my kids make the right choices? It's not the question of is my marriage strong enough? It's a question that everybody must answer. And it's a question that Jesus posed to His disciples. Let's look this morning, Mark chapter 8, beginning with verse 27. Jesus went on with His disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way, He asked His disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered Him, "Some say John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, and others one of the prophets." And then He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And Jesus sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about who He was. And then He began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And He said all of this to them quite openly. And Peter, who had answered earlier, right? Who did Peter say he was? The Messiah. Peter pulled him to the side and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at His disciples, Jesus rebuked Peter and said, "Get thee behind me, Satan. For you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." And He called the crowd with His disciples, and He said to them, "If you want to become one of my followers, you need to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake, for the sake of the gospel, will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their very soul? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when He comes in glory with His Father and with the holy angels." May God bless the reading and the hearing of His Word. What is the most important question? Who do you say that I am? Now imagine Jesus wanting to know what other people said about Him. Notice what He didn't say. Who do you want me to be? That's not what Jesus said. Let me ask you this question. How may I change so I can make you like me more? That's not what Jesus said. Who do men say that I am? And His answer was, some people say John the Baptist was the response. Some people say Elijah or maybe one of the other prophets. But Peter said, "You're the Messiah. You're the chosen one. You're the Redeemer. You're the one who's going to rescue us from this stuff that we're in." So he described the Jesus that he wanted. But when Jesus said who He really was and what would really happen, and the fact that He would give up His life and that they would take it from Him and that He would rise again, Peter didn't want no part of that, right? So what Peter wanted was what? The Jesus he wanted, not the Jesus he needed. This morning, I asked you some casual questions, and we were very free and open to share that. Grits, that was a surprising answer. Don't like hash browns, that's a surprising answer. Some people here probably don't even like football, right? Raise your hand. There's one. Don't care nothing about it. And other people, they fit their whole schedule so they can see a game, right? The most important question you have to answer in this life is, who is Jesus? What is He to you? Is He a man? Is He just a prophet? Or is He your Redeemer? Christians throughout history have said this: we're sinners, we need redemption, Jesus died for us, and because He died for us, if we accept Him, God forgives us of our sins. Amen. And we have life eternal. I got an amen there. Mm-hmm. That's good. Who is Jesus to you? Ultimately, you have to answer that question. We all have opinions about everything. And people are so free to share them. People share them when you don't want them. Let me tell you what I found out. When Heather put on Facebook that I had a cold, I have 10 different things I can take. I have 5 or 6 different things I can drink. And all of them will make me better. But let me tell you the answer to this question. Who is Jesus? There's one answer. Jesus is the Jesus you need and not the Jesus you want. Jesus is the one who died for you. Jesus is the one that gives you purpose of being. Jesus is the one that if you have everything else in the world and you don't have Him, you bust hell wide open. Amen. Jesus is that one. And when we give you choices and when we talk to you about things and when we ask you your opinion about would you like things like, would you prefer a sunny day or a rainy day? Sunny. Would you prefer heaven or hell? Would you prefer life or death? Life. This morning, we have the great opportunity to have a baptism. What does baptism mean? If I asked Brett on any other day, would you prefer to get wet when it's chilly outside or would you prefer to get wet when it's hot? What would his answer be? Hot. Guess what? It ain't hot. But here's the other question. Would you prefer to be obedient to the command of Jesus, to confess Him publicly? Would you prefer to be obedient and be baptized and say before the world, Jesus is my Lord, I'm dying to my old self, I'm rising to life anew, not because I do it right, but because God's grace covers me, and it's far bigger than that ocean. God's grace is bigger than that ocean. God's grace is immense. It's immeasurable. How deep is it? Real deep. How wide is it? Real wide. How forgiven are we? Ooh, we are forgiven. And this morning He is saying publicly, He will follow Jesus. And this morning I hold it out to you. Who is Jesus to you? You don't have to stand and answer that this morning. I'm not going to go, who is Jesus? I'm not going to do that, because then y'all might throw me off the end of the pier. But I want you to wrestle with that this morning, and I want you to come to grips with that. The disciples that followed Jesus around all the time, what did Peter try to do? Talk to me. What did Peter try to do when Jesus told him who He was? He pulled Jesus aside and did what? No, Jesus, no, you need to quit talking that way. And Jesus said what to him? Get thee behind me, Satan. I have a mission. I have a calling. I have a plan. And the plan that God has for me is to come here, to teach you, to live a perfect life and to die. And to rise again so that you could have life eternal. Who is Jesus? This week, I want you to wrestle with that question. When you look over the edge of that pier and you see Britt go underwater, dying to the old man, and come up a new creature. I want you to ask yourself this question. Who is Jesus to me? And if you want to talk about that, my info is in that worship order. I'm available for you anytime. Call me. I'd love to talk to you about Jesus. Let me tell you who Jesus is to me. Jesus is the one that your preacher messes up a lot. Okay? Do y'all know this about me? Good. Yeah. I am not perfect. I struggle. Sometimes I am the most egotistical person in the world. Sometimes it's all about me. Sometimes I'm hard to get along with. Sometimes I want what I want and I'll step on somebody else to get it. I'm going to be honest. Am I proud of that? No. But let me tell you who I am. I'm a sinner. And let me tell you who Jesus is. He's one who knows every bad part of me. And He loves me anyway. Jesus is one who died for my sins. Jesus is the one that picks me up and lets me try again. Jesus is the one that put a calling in my life. Jesus is the one that gave me a voice to speak. Jesus is the one who gave me a story to tell. Jesus is the one that calls broken people to tell other people about Him. All I am, folks, is somebody who found water. I heard this quote many, many years ago. I am a thirsty traveler that found water, and I am trying to point other thirsty travelers to the watering hole. Jesus is the living water. Jesus is the bread of life. Jesus is the hope for a wicked world. Jesus is the only thing you need. A couple of weeks ago, I threw out this challenge that when you went into the store, when you got ready to buy something, to ask yourself, am I trying to buy this to fill a hole in my life that only Jesus can fill? Remember when I threw that challenge out to you? And I said, I'd love to hear an email about what God does with this week. You know how many people email me? Why? Because it's more comfortable to have stuff than to wrestle with why we want the stuff. Right? Who do men say that I am? Jesus said. And then He said, who do you say that I am? Britt, who do you say Jesus is this morning?
My Savior.
His Savior. And because of that, you are going to be
Baptized.
He's going to be baptized. Britt is the biggest Alabama fan I know. You don't talk to Britt long, you go hear a Roll Tide. It's just the way it goes. But let me tell you, that's wonderful. I'm as big a Clemson fan as he is an Alabama fan. But when we walk out into that water, you know what we are? We're sinners. And when he goes under, he's an old man. And when he comes up, he's a new man. Who is Jesus? He's everything. That's who He is. If we would, let's stand this morning. We're going to sing our closing song. One of y'all 6 people that your spouse pointed at you, you need to lead us. And we're going to go down there on the golf cart. And we're going to walk out into that water. And I invite you after the closing song to walk over to that rail. Look, look, look. Here she comes. Look, look. Awesome. Walk over to that rail and check out this baptism. I want you to do this for me. Before you leave this pier, I want you to bow, or I want you to pray for Britt. I want you to pray that he has the strength to trust Jesus all those days of his life. I want you to pray for each other. God's doing things in your midst. There's people here that are wrestling with who Jesus is. And they're going to come forward. They're going to let me know who that is. And we're going to proceed. God is working. God is moving. Are you excited? Who's Jesus? He's everything. Let's sing together.